Well. Mr. Fox the Refuse podcast here. I saw that movie, Pillion, with Alexander Skarsgård and what's his name? Tom Welling. I got some thoughts. Alright, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. So, I'm back. This time I'm doing another movie review. Last review that I did was of the America's Next Top Model docuseries. Each video was a review of each episode. It's on the I Refuse podcast YouTube channel. Same place where you're watching this one. I took my time. I normally take my time with reviewing or reacting to things. You know, after everybody done dressed up, got into the allure and the aesthetic of things and come with some critical thinking skills and let that shit marinate. I got some reactions from other folks that have seen it. You know, the huge takeaway is the lack of dialogue, which I don't necessarily mind. I mean, there wasn't that much dialogue in Call Me By Your Name. There wasn't that much dialogue in Brokeback Mountain. This movie, as promoted as a dark rom-com kind of thing, didn't really feel the romance. So for anybody that's living in Amish country, living under a rock, living without running water, there's a movie from across the pond that came out last year starring Alexander Skarsgård and Tom Welling, I believe. Tom Welling plays Colin, a member of a barbershop quartet that's performing around town, performing at a bar or whatever. Alexander Skarsgård plays a Dom, a man that is part of a leather biker gang. There's not too much distinction or clarity there as far as like the background on both of these individuals, right? But what is clear, and which I think a lot of people are missing, is that, you know, not every movie has to have a lot of dialogue. What's very, very key in movies with a lack of dialogue is that you get the character development as the movie progresses, which I got. You know, this is not indicative of only movies, but also music videos, video games. You know, we're so accustomed to action and having everything written out and spoken out in front of us. Whereas in this movie, you see, particularly out of Colin, his character development emotionally. And whereas Alexander Skarsgård's character, Ray, he keeps a cold, albeit irresponsible way of existing. There are certain areas or certain scenes where it's just like, I probably would not have carried it that way. But one thing I really do enjoy about this movie is that this is kind of applicable to real life. You know, there's some younger folks and maybe some older folks, late bloomers, albeit, that have an impressionable energy about them. You know, that's not to be confused with, you know, Colin being innocent or Colin being led upon. As you see towards the end of the movie, you know, you see somebody that has not only come into their own, but actually makes their position or they're awakening a way of life. Which, if you actually think about it, I think for good or worse, when you are a young fellow or a young dame, um, it is it's a slippery slope. There is a break that comes out of Colin when the affection starts to reduce and he wants to progress it more. And he just pops off. Of course, that's compounded by, a loss of that he experiences from the family. And in reaction to the outburst or the accident, you get two reactions out of Ray of varying degrees. With after about an hour or so of this icy masculinity, a maintaining a level of mystique that comes off of Ray, we finally do see Ray actually care or look after Colin after, when the accident in the kitchen happens. Which, grief in and of itself manifests or shows up in the room in different ways. You finally see like a tender moment. You finally see another example of aftercare, which is very important in a dom-sub relationship or dynamic. But you also see, I think overall, just a surface level understanding. I don't know if every person associated with the film is straight in real life, like is the director and screenwriter straight? I don't know. But I do know that the energy and the environment, the culture and the climate across the pond is a little bit more, what's the word? I wouldn't say like stoic, but very, very, not even, no. It's definitely a different kind of thing over there. Like it's a little bit more in your face and real. Whereas over here, it's more fantastical and more theory based. And I can get into that on another episode. But throughout the movie, on coming from Ray, you see someone that is adjusting to his latest, I wouldn't say conquest, but his latest subject. From the onset, there is a very strong nonverbal spark of electricity amongst the two of them at the bar in the first scene. And then, you get probably about 45 minutes into it and you don't see any affection on Ray. He's not affected by Colin's presence for the most part. He's not affected emotionally by Colin's service. It's more that gets gradual to where he is making him more service oriented. But there is, like I said, little to no conversation and little to no getting to know more about Colin. But Colin, in return, wanting to make him more present in his personal life. Beyond just being somebody in the phone that's attractive and all that other stuff. Then it doesn't go that well. Mine was a little bit on the obnoxious side. But I get that she's also, I don't even think it was even communicated in the movie that she was going through something. But she was putting a little bit too much 20 on the 10. That's kind of the only takeaway. It's just like, this this kind of takes the air out of the room. But, you know, there are some of us out here that have been a Colin before. Doesn't say like his age, so to speak, or even allude to what his age is. Um, but definitely inexperienced. And I think had the movie kind of made some more nuance around the two, the one outburst and then the one meltdown, and kind of like it just, I wondered, or I wanted to know or explore more of Ray's backstory. Um, you know, there are parallels with this movie as with Call Me By Your Name, where it's like you have a young boy longing, wasn't really wasn't really with it at first, or didn't know what was going on at first, but at some point um, fell into this and was longing for something more substantial. They finally kiss. Um, Something that didn't come at any point earlier than that, and boy's left high and dry. But he just continues on. You just it that part. I'm just like, we don't really know a whole lot about Ray. I mean, Alexander Skarsgård definitely plays the mystique, mystical, has that energy that comes across the screen real well. Of a person you'd be like, well, goddamn, I guess we're doing this and I don't have a say in it. The magnetism. But it it didn't, I did love that Pillion didn't leave you feeling sorry for Colin. You know, Colin, with his newfound experience, went on about his life, and that I can identify with. You know, when I was 18 years old, I was out on my own, living in my own space, probably about 1,000 or so miles away from home. Didn't have to answer to anybody. Had my one job in the military. Didn't know the right way to go about socializing with other men, and didn't even know what the fuck, if I was even going in that direction in life. Wasn't there yet. But once I started feeling my way around, literally and figuratively, you know, I just took to figuring things out on my own and tasting and sampling some things. And I was like, okay, this doesn't have to be stressful. This can be a lot of fun. And just moving on about and around. And I saw that in Colin. I'm like, okay, he's not sitting by a fireplace like Timothy Chalamet in Call Me By Your Name. He's not sitting there looking crazy, teary eyed and stuff. Cause after this man popped my cherry, he goes to me. This could have easily turned into a Grinder documentary, but you know, there's always going to be a downside. You know, on top of criminal, to messing with a man almost twice your age. Here, Colin is not a high school student. Colin is a young man, has a job, and is enamored from a place of innocence with this striking man that came up to him. And I ain't gonna lie, that's how you spit game. You don't have to say much. You don't have to say a whole lot. You don't have to say a whole lot. It's the holidays, write your information in a card, address, place, number, time. And obviously, with Colin coming to that same place that he wrote out in the card, implies consent. What I don't know what other people had in mind when they were dressing up in leather in groups going to see this movie. They probably thought, "Oh, these one or two scenes of guys in leather riding bikes and wearing, a lock and chain. Oh, this must be for us." There were probably less than four scenes. It wasn't primarily about that. Again, people being performative, but you know how that goes. Let's see what else. Very, very good performances by the both of them. Alexander Skarsgård really, and this could be, being that tall definitely has its advantages to where you don't have to be muscly and burly as long as you just have the energy that comes across that, like, I'm the dumb, and as time goes on, we expand the service. And Colin still not still not up on the know-how because this is his first kind of experience. Gets to it, and initially he has an idea that this is what he's going to be about: an aptitude for service. Now, I don't know, like I said, if the director slash screenwriter or whatever is how he identifies. But, there's part of me that feels like on the surface, I think he must think that sub just instantly means to be of service. And you give in from the onset. Hence, the I don't know if you want to call it hand wrestling or whatever in the alley. I guess that's supposed to represent a nonverbal agreement that you showcasing as a metaphor your strength or lack thereof means you are the sub. We're telling the audience that you are the sub in this movie. I don't think a lot of people caught on to that, but I did. What I love about the movie is how they find different ways to communicate to the audience what it is they're trying to convey without much dialogue. Wasn't quite sure what Jake Shears from the Scissor Sisters, what his character was about. Obviously, they knew as actors what was about to unfold in the next scene after they were carrying the table. But I think they probably were setting the course for that thing that happens sometimes if you are a couple or a non-committed couple, but one person is all in and loyal to this person, while in reciprocity it's not clear or it's not communicated in the same way, where they're part of this group. One side's always the dom, the other side's always the sub. And they're carrying this table to do this thing. And was that meant to imply that he was interested in Ray and that I don't know, it's just the scene with the table, them carrying the table and that little dialogue, and then what happened afterwards. Ray got to try him out for a little bit after teasing Colin, and he got a little bit or whatever, and then he came back to Colin, and I think it was in that moment for me that I knew, okay, finally Ray feels substantially for Colin. There's always like little moments here and there in a dynamic or a relationship or when you're dating or courting that, oh, you can tell, okay, this person actually not only sees me, but actually values me. It's like, okay, we finally get a little bit more out of Ray. Because up until that point, it wasn't clear. But again, maybe people were not aware of this when reading a book or a movie or watching a movie that, the character development of each character doesn't have to occur at the exact same time. It is refreshing to know that over the course of time, I think once Ray got past the point that, oh, this guy is not only here to give me service, but I actually like having him around. But even with all that, it was still like he shut down. And that's one thing in like gay rom-coms or gay comedies where there's two male leads. They never quite explore 100% the emotional shutdown that one displays when they're getting close or they feel like they're starting to get close to somebody else. Is that a psychology trauma thing? I don't know. But even with all that, you're like, oh, he's finally reciprocating value back to this guy. They get to the house later on, and the conversation while Ray's reading the book and Colin is clearly working up the confidence and the courage to like request a little bit more affection, request be in the bed versus laying at the foot of the bed, actually wanting to make this, I think, a relationship. And Ray essentially shut him down. And again, I didn't feel like there was much aftercare, if any, leading me to believe that the director / screenwriter had a surface level know-how as to be a dom, but also be a responsible dom. I do want to give him credit though for not making Colin be a weaselly, weak, whiny sub, but somebody of grounding, somebody of character know-how. He didn't lose himself completely into Ray. Some folks do that out here. They get so wrapped up into a man child, start keying their car, start vandalizing their shit. Since they moved on, got engaged, and the person's like posting on social, I'm like, oh my goodness. I know who you're talking about without even dropping a name. And I don't even live over there. But big dick will do that to you. If you're not careful, if you're not careful, it could cause some people to commit some felonies and some misdemeanors, or end up in the crazy hospital with the white walls and the white lady. I'm gonna see about the lady today. But that's not my tea. It ain't about that. But you get what I'm saying? Like, you hear the story all the time. The one that couldn't handle it, that wouldn't let go, just loses their mind. And it's like there are 5 billion people on this planet. I mean, hopefully they'll still be here tomorrow, um, when three possibly starts. Um, but I like that he didn't write Colin to like completely lose his mind, even with the substantial loss. I mean, the most we got was an accident in the kitchen. He didn't get physical with Ray. He didn't. I mean, he took the bike for a ride and came to his senses, but it didn't. It didn't get Fatal Attraction like, you know what I mean? Even though Fatal Attraction is my shit. And even though in reality there are some people out here that still ponder about people publicly that have clearly moved on. And it's like you have got to have more in your life going on. You have got to have more to your life than fishing for an additional person and being relentless about it and not having the balance when it doesn't go your way. Not having the balance when it doesn't go your way. And unfortunately, on the other side, in this space, this community, sometimes, people with huge egos feed off of that, feed off the drama and the performance to be right about folks. And it's like, it's not centered around you. It's a good thing also the writer didn't go in that direction either. Because we are just exhausted by life these days. It wasn't necessarily a sad movie, but I wouldn't classify it as like a romantic movie by no stretch of the imagination. I mean, there was no aftercare. There was little to no affection, and there was definitely a sustainable level of usability. Um, and this feeling, I mean, clearly Colin is the main character. I mean, you get most of the physical and the emotional magnetism from Colin. Like, you at some point feel like you are in Colin's position. And you feel for Colin. Colin, and watching Ray request somebody else over him, watching Ray use this other guy, Jake Shears, to be a better playmate and give Ray what he wants in that moment. Some folks out here have been in that situation too, and it sucks. But again, the writer did really, really well in the handling with that scene. Colin, you definitely knew that Colin was feeling a bit of jealousy, and Colin felt less than, and it was all within the same area in the movie. You get to feel the wide range of emotions from Colin. And for me, I didn't feel like I had to be out to get Ray. Towards the end, we get the moment that makes Ray feel alive, But again, after that, you get the wind knocked out of you and the other shoe drops. And it's like we have got to address this this coldness and this emotional this this lack of emotional responsibility. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, it's clear that Ray is supporting and Colin is the lead. Um, and this Tom Welling, I think is the actor's name, did a really good job. And I know a lot of gay and bi folks out there are feeling some kind of way that straight actors keep taking gay roles. But it's like can you name 5 gay actors that can translate very well as Alexander Skarsgård and Tom Welling? I mean, looks aside, because y'all were calling that man ugly, and I'm just like, he's not ugly. He's not ugly, but this is the world we live in. This is definitely the world we live in. I would give Pillion about a 9 out of 10. I didn't go into it expecting it to be a representation of the leather community or the kink community. I mean, if it was, there would be way more clicks in the movie than just the one, where everybody looks the same. But to some degree, there is some innocence to it and growing out of the innocence into your reality, which I think a lot of people can identify with. And who hasn't been a Colin in their life? Who hasn't been a Ray in their life? Pillion was good. Pillion was good. I definitely would watch it more. Watch it again. So I think it's more real to me, and I can identify with it. Didn't go into it expecting it to be this S&M thing or this red light district kind of thing. Something to get your rocks off to. It's really good. It's really, really good. And I recommend people see it. And question for the audience. My friend in Chicago, I already asked him, and he thinks it's not actually Alexander Skarsgård's, but wouldn't it be something if it was? They say it was a prosthetic, but I'm like, oh man. It's already bad enough that AI is fooling us, but I think I'm actually done if I fall for a fake prosthetic appendage. Nevertheless, I'm gonna get off here before this gets a little too spicy. I'm Mr. Fox That Refuse Podcast. This is my review of Pillion. Highly recommend to folks looking for something pretty neat. I mean, it's an A24 film. A24 has been on it for many, many years. I saw Zone of Interest last year. Oh boy, based on a true story. Man, what a time. What a time. What a time. What a time. Oh, I'm coming up this shirt a little bit. Outcome of going to the gym. But again, Miss Fox I Refuse Podcast, get into the season 7, wherever you get your podcasts. Season 3, Usual Suspects Podcast, me and Abstract. Available wherever you get your podcasts. The link is in the bio of the I Refuse Podcast YouTube channel. She and I will be getting together this week to do another episode. Trying to stick to this weekly schedule. Wish me luck. It's not easy. But yeah, continue continue to follow, subscribe, and support original Black content creation, such as myself. In the meantime, between time, I will catch you guys later. Peace.
Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast.